In the year 3026, nobody was allowed to say, "I miss you." If you spoke those 3 words in public, your home would be locked down within minutes. Not because you had committed a crime, but because the government believed you were infected. They called it emotional regression syndrome. According to every history book, humanity had finally defeated loneliness over 1,000 years ago. Scientists had erased grief. Engineers had erased heartbreak. Artificial intelligence had erased regret. Every painful memory that could make someone cry had been carefully removed from the human mind before a child turned 5 years old. People still smiled. People still worked. People still married. But nobody ever missed anyone, because nobody was ever allowed to remember enough to feel loss. Children grew up believing that words like longing, homesick, and heartache were myths from primitive civilizations. They laughed when they read ancient poems. They couldn't understand why someone would cry over a photograph, and they had never heard the sentence, "I miss you," until I turned 18. My name is Elias. I grew up exactly like everyone else. Every morning, my bedroom lights woke me at precisely 7 o'clock. The city greeted me with the same cheerful message. Today is another perfect day. The streets were spotless. Nobody argued, nobody shouted, nobody cried. Every face looked peaceful, too peaceful. As a child, I thought perfection was beautiful. As I got older, it started to feel strangely empty. Sometimes I would watch old recordings from before the memory reform. Families hugging each other at airports, friends crying when they said goodbye, parents cheering as their children left for university. I didn't understand why they looked so happy while they were crying. Our teachers told us those people were emotionally unstable, that humanity had evolved beyond those irrational feelings. I believed them until my 18th birthday. There was one person who had always felt different. My grandmother. She rarely spoke. She spent hours sitting beside the window watching the sunset. When I asked what she was looking at, she always smiled and answered the same way. Something beautiful I can't quite remember. Everyone assumed her memory was failing because of age. The doctors said it was normal. But whenever she looked at me, there was sadness in her eyes that no machine could explain. The night before my birthday, she passed away peacefully in her sleep. The funeral lasted exactly 6 minutes. No tears, no flowers, no speeches. The city believed grief only delayed healing. Everyone thanked the memory department for protecting society from unnecessary pain. By sunset, life continued exactly as before, except mine didn't. The next morning, I returned to my grandmother's apartment to help clear out her belongings. The room was almost empty. One wooden chair, an old bookshelf, a faded blanket, objects from another time that should have been recycled decades ago. While moving her bed, I noticed one of the floorboards wasn't level. I knelt down and pulled it aside. Hidden beneath it was a tiny metal box covered in dust. There were no digital locks, no biometric scanner, just a rusted key taped underneath the lid. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, there was something I had only seen in history museums. A handwritten letter. Real paper, real ink, addressed to only one person. To my grandson, if you still know how to feel. My heart began to race. I unfolded the fragile paper. The first sentence changed my life forever. It read, "If you're reading this, it means the world has forgotten how to miss the people they love." I read the sentence again. Then again. I understood every word. But somehow, I understood none of them. I looked toward her chair, the same chair where she had watched the sunset. And then I asked myself, do I miss her? I waited for the feeling, for the tears, for the pain. Nothing came. There was only an empty space inside me. That was when I opened the historical archive. I searched for one word, miss. The archive found thousands of recordings. I opened the first one. A woman stood inside an airport. A young man was walking away from her. She was crying, but she was smiling. I didn't understand. Why was she happy? Why was she in pain? And why did she keep staring at the door? After he had already disappeared, I searched for an explanation. The archive gave me one. Pre-reform emotional instability. I almost closed the recording. Then I noticed something. She wasn't trying to make the pain disappear. She wasn't asking a machine to fix her. She was simply feeling it. I searched for another word. Longing. The system paused. Then a warning appeared. Emotional context restricted. I stared at the screen. Then I searched heartache. The same warning appeared. Then I searched grief. The archive locked me out. I sat there in the darkness. 3 words: longing, heartache, grief. Words I had heard before, but never truly understood. I opened my grandmother's letter again. There was something written beneath the first page. A sentence I hadn't noticed before. They will tell you that humans were suffering. They will tell you that the solution was mercy. I kept reading, but the rest of the sentence had been crossed out. Only 3 words remained. To remove love. I stared at the page. Then the lights turned on. A voice spoke from behind me. Unauthorized emotional archive access detected. I slowly turned around. And for the first time in my life, I felt afraid. Not because someone was standing behind me, but because I finally understood what my grandmother's letter meant. The world had not forgotten how to miss the people they loved. The world had been taught not to. The officer didn't raise his weapon. He looked at the letter in my hands. Then he sighed. So, she finally found someone. I froze. You knew about this. He looked toward my grandmother's empty chair. I knew about her. We all did. She refused the treatment. I stared at him. What treatment? The final emotional correction. The procedure that removed the last traces of attachment. My hands tightened around the letter. Why would anyone agree to that? He was silent. Then he answered, because grief hurts. Heartbreak hurts, loss hurts, and people believed pain was humanity's greatest problem. He slowly walked into the apartment, so they built machines that could erase it. At first, everyone celebrated. No more broken hearts, no more depression, no more mourning, no more unbearable goodbyes. Diseases became curable. Hunger disappeared. Wars ended. Society became peaceful, efficient, predictable, perfect. I looked out at the city. Everything suddenly made sense. The synchronized crowds, the 6-minute funerals, the empty smiles, the children who never dreamed. What did it cost? The officer looked at me, something nobody noticed disappearing. He gently pointed to the letter. The ability to love deeply, because love and loss were never separate. My grandmother knew. That's why she watched every sunset. She wasn't losing her memory. She was holding on to it. Holding on to what it felt like. To love someone enough. To miss them. I looked back at the officer. Why are you telling me this? For the first time, he looked afraid too. Because, now that you've read the letter, they'll never let you forget. And that's when I realized my grandmother hadn't hidden the letter to preserve the past. She had hidden it to protect the future.